What's up, guys? Mr. G here with Disabled to Able, and today I want to show you my Jeep. It's a 1989 Jeep Wrangler. It's got the original 4.2 liter AMC 258 with a carburetor, original 3-speed automatic transmission with no overdrive, original front axle, which is a Dana 30, and pretty much original frame and body. I haven't really messed with that too much. And everything else has been upgraded to a certain extent for mostly rock crawling and trail riding, exploring, that kind of thing. So I'm just going to kind of go through the whole Jeep and everything that I've done to it from the front to the back. And if you guys have any questions or any comments, just feel free to drop those in the comment section and I will be sure to answer them or answer any questions that you may have. So starting with the very front here, I'll make my way over to it. We got a Smitty built winch. Give you guys exact model here. It is an XRC 9500, which stands for the 9,500 pound winch, which is a little bit overkill for the Jeep, but hey, bigger the better, and it's a pretty decent looking winch. I have yet to really use it. I don't get stuck very often in this thing, but you never know. Might come a day where I'm going to need to either use it or help somebody else out, so it's good to have it. And I got these orange lights, LED lights, that I either use as fog lights or as kind of like utility lights or whatever. And typically if the winch is on, I'll turn those on. Or right above the winch we have an LED bar. I believe it's a 24-inch LED bar. Could be a 22, I'm not sure. I apologize, I forget who it's made by, but I believe it's McTuning if I'm not mistaken. I got it on Amazon. Back when I got it, it was about $100. It was not cheap, but it has lasted about 3 years at this point. Hasn't had any problems at all. It's never let me down. So all the wiring is nice and watertight, and I'm running it to an individual relay. I have relays and fuses on individual circuits for everything on this vehicle that I custom made myself. I ripped all the electrical out of it. Every single wire from the factory that was put in this Jeep was garbage, was incorrectly designed, and I took everything out. I just started over, and I'll get back into that, but yeah, I'm actually gonna do the electrical yet all over again, from a different approach this time, and I'll explain why in a different video that I'll dedicate to electrical only. But as of now, it's got version 1 custom made by me electrical harness, 0 gauge wire for the starter and the winch and that kind of stuff, and oh man, I got a crazy neighbor just yelling in the background, ruining my video, but whatever. Hope you guys don't hear it too well. Anyway, so all right, we went over the winch and the lights. Right below what the winch is attached to is a custom bumper, which I have purchased before I knew how to weld, for I believe a little over $100. And it used to have pieces here that came off the sides that were really ugly, and later on I chopped those off and I turned it into a shorty bumper, and I welded those end caps on it when I did learn how to weld. It's got the D-ring mounts for good recovery points. This bumper is super simple. It's got a 3/4-inch plate up top for the winch mount. It's bolted to the frame with 3 bolts on each side, so 6 bolts total. It ain't going anywhere. You could probably hang the Jeep upside down with this bumper. So, all right, moving on. We have 1 or 1/2-inch shackles, boomerang shackles, with Old Man Emu bushings up top and BDS bushings at the spring. We have greasable bolts, and these are BDS suspension, 5-inch leafs. They give you slight wheelbase stretch, I believe, of either 1/2 inch or 1 inch, something like that each way. So that kind of works nice. 5 inches of total lift. I did take one of the leaves out, so I'm probably right around 4.5 inches, I would say. Gives it a little bit more flex. Since my Jeep doesn't have much weight to it, believe it or not, or at least body weight. It's pretty empty inside, so I don't have all sorts of things that some people put on there that would add a lot of weight. And if I ever did, I would add those back on, because for now, with the 4-leaf setup, they seem to work really well. They don't sag and they flex really nicely. For the steering, I have Rugged Ridge heavy duty steering linkage for a YJ. Unfortunately, it still has the Y split right over here, which I'm not a fan of, but I got a good deal on it. It hasn't failed me, so I'm basically gonna run this until something breaks, and then I'll end up putting the Rough Stuff custom Heim joint steering linkage from Rough Stuff, and it's going to be DOM tubing. This is DOM tubing as well. I believe it's 250 wall, and I've put it through some pretty gnarly trails, and it served me well. It hasn't failed me yet, so I'm pretty happy with it. Moving behind that, we have a solid differential cover on a factory Dana 30 axle. It has been modified with the quick disconnect removal, so I removed that little motor with the vacuum from the factory, and I got rid of the split axle, so now it's just a solid. I'm running G2 chromoly axle shafts in there, all new seals. I've fully rebuilt this axle with G2 456 gears, Detroit True Track or Eaton True Track, and all new bearings and everything in G2 Master Rebuild Kit. It's got new brakes, new ball joints, Spicer ball joints. So pretty much I rebuilt the whole front axle. Stainless steel extended brake lines. We got Pro Comp shocks. I used to have Bilsteins that were charged, and these are not charged, so they seem to do a little bit better for crawling. They're just softer. Then let's see here. Yeah, that's about it on the front end. Pretty simple. I removed the track bar, as you can see. Removed the sway bar. Don't really need it. This thing still corners surprisingly well. We have a CB mount antenna here. It's a Fire Stick. I believe it's a 5-foot Fire Stick. Might be a 4. That's actually, I believe it's a 4-foot Fire Stick. And we have Maxxis Creepy Crawlers 37-inch tires. I absolutely love these tires. Not so much for the city driving, obviously, but for rock crawling and trail driving, they're amazing. I can go just about anywhere in 2-wheel drive. They grip for days. Well, that's about it up the front. We got a Hayden 404 transmission cooler, and we have hella European glass headlights, and these are sealed. They put out a decent amount of light, much better than stock. Take you guys over to tube fenders that I built. Made these, welded them together and painted them with Rust-Oleum bedliner spray and some clear coat. We got a kill switch over here, and that allows, if something was to happen on the trail, for somebody outside the vehicle to shut it off. Also, in case of a rollover or God forbid an accident, you can use that, and you could shut that off to save battery from draining if you plan on having the Jeep sit for a while. So that's kind of nice. I still have my radio antenna installed, but at this point I don't have a radio in the dash just yet. I'm still gonna get to that at some point in time. We have some floodlights here, or spotlights, made by Gency. Decent quality. They're really bright. They look great. I get a lot of compliments on them, and they work pretty well on a trail. I do use this quite often. Alright, we have full doors that I picked up from another YJ, and a hardtop, of course. We have these rock guards that are 1/8 inch thick, that's just directly bolted to the body, that I made. And right below that, we have rock sliders that are 3/16 thick. They're completely sealed and can be used as air tanks later. And those guys are, as you can see, directly welded to the frame, and the frame has been sleeved for extra strength. I'm gonna zoom in here, and I know the Jeep is extremely dirty, but hopefully you guys can see. Right over here we have a transmission pan that's aluminum. It's extra deep, holds I believe 2.5 or 3 quarts extra transmission fluid. It helps it stay cool with these big tires. Magnaflow catalytic converter is hiding right below the transfer case skid plate. We are running NP 231 transfer case with Tatten driveline, custom drive shaft, both front and rear. Let's see if I can get it. Spicer U joints. Everything is DOM, and high speed balanced. I'm hoping I'm getting it. Maybe not. Am I not getting it? I don't think I'm getting it. There it is. So that's the front drive shaft right there. Like I was saying just a second ago, as far as the transfer case goes, we have the NP 231 transfer case with advanced adapters, slip yoke eliminator. Not sure if you guys could see, but we have our slip yoke eliminator and a custom drive shaft. Custom drive shaft made by Tatten. Hopefully it's gonna get it. The slip yoke eliminator. Let me show you guys the interior, and we'll move on to the rear axle, back of the Jeep. So inside, quite a bit has been done, and it's still a work in progress. We have a ammo can center console / armrest, which I really like. It's lockable, as you can see. All right. We have a rugged ridge passenger seat, and we have a Mastercraft suspension driver seat, and that seat is extremely comfortable. Works perfect for me and my messed up back. Stock steering wheel. The steering column is stock. We have a Cobra CB radio. I really like it. It gets me out about, I would say, barefoot 50 miles to 70 miles without any skip. It's really nice. We got odometer gauges. We have transmission temperature gauge. Is the only one that is currently not hooked up. I am working on that. I will do that eventually. I'm missing a clock. It's in the box still. We have the oil pressure, which is hooked up. We have voltage. We have fuel, and we have temperature. On the other side, we have the RPM gauge and the speedometer. All those are hooked up and working. Over here, we have some switches, and those are for the lights up front. For the orange lights, for the LED light bar, and the pods, the spotlights on by the mirrors. All right, we have OR fab bolt-in cage here. That's really well built. It's made out of DOM. And in the back, we have I welded the additional family bar add-ons for more safety in case this was to roll over. This would protect the interior as much as possible. At the moment, there's no rear seat, but I do have one in the garage. I'm planning on installing, just haven't got around to it yet. I do have the carpet removed, and the whole entire floor was at some point sprayed with truck bed liner. It's seen better days, and it's starting to kind of show some wear. But if when I wash the interior out, it's gonna be good again. I got a little doggy bowl and a bunch of dog hair here and a chain. I have some of the recovery gear in the center console. I'm planning on putting putting a small glove box here. I'm planning on adding a Alpine head unit, and for now, this is my glove box right here. I also have a little LED light here and another LED light right there, and both those seem to work really well in the interior. I will be putting some permanent LED lights on the inside, really similar to my front fog lights, except they're not going to be orange. Alright, we got these grab handles. There's a lot of companies that make them. I've had a few of them fail. I use the rope to get in the Jeep because it's so high, and I end up having to get those grab handles. So the ones over there are actually ripped. This one's a newer one that's still holding up, but they don't last too long. About a couple, year to 2 years tops, and then you have to get new ones. All right. So now you guys have seen the inside. Back here we have Schmitty built rear fender that has been trimmed for these 37s. Over here we have mountain off-road rear shock brackets that are welded into the frame, and they basically give you extended rear shock travel. You have to have a body lift for this to work right. I do have a Daystar 1-inch body lift I forgot to mention. I believe you could see it right there, and their mounts are all the way around, so must have on this Jeep, absolutely. And I forgot to mention I have motor mount lift along with new motor mounts from Daystar as well, and they lift the motor about 1 inch, so gives you a better drive line angle. And they're solid motor mounts with polyurethane bushings, so they do yield more vibration, but it's fine, you know. For off-roading, they do well. Keep your motor. And I also have Daystar transmission mount that is polyurethane as well, forgot to mention. So they work really well together. I haven't had any issues with either one failing in, I think 3 years that I've been running them now, maybe 4. And we have some Procomp 15 by 10.5 wide wheels all the way around, with Maxxis Creepy Crawler 37 by, I believe, 12.5. Maybe, yeah, they're pretty wide. So, as like I mentioned earlier, I don't have a back seat in yet, but we will put that in at some point. I do have it purchased, just haven't installed it yet. Back here we have a Ford 8.8 rear axle with 456 G2 gears, solid differential cover, on disc brakes, mountain off-road rear leaf spring installation kit, and the angles are set and everything. Procomp shocks, stainless steel extended brake lines, and we're running 1.25 inch spacers all the way around, made by G2. So as you can see, we're sitting pretty wide, and this helps a lot with stability on the trail, and rocks especially on off-camber kind of areas and that kind of thing. It keeps this Jeep, it's low and wide, so it keeps it really well planted together. Back here, push myself off far enough. Back here we have a Crown rear worn replica bumper with a tire carrier that I could not be happier with. I absolutely love this thing. Later on I will add more mounts to it to carry gas cans and high lift and all that, but for now it supports my 37-inch tire, no problems, and this bumper is bolted to the frame. It's a very great departure angle bumper. It does not stick out far at all, so when you're on the trail, I don't think I've ever hit the bumper with anything, maybe like once. So I don't have corner guards, but just the way it's set up, it really seems to protect this area. I may get those eventually. Never do mess it up. I have my sticker here. I love rocks. Full size spare, of course. That gets rotated in. We have a hitch mount that is usable for towing. This bumper is bolted into the frame 6 different places. So I don't know if I mentioned or forgot to mention anything else underneath the Jeep that's been done, but like I said, it has it has a Flowmaster exhaust muffler, the louder one. I forget, I think a Flowmaster 40 if I'm not mistaken. I apologize for not knowing exact models for some of the parts that are on here, just because it's been so many years you tend to forget, but it's a Flowmaster with 2.5 in, 2.5 out inlets. And I still, like I said, I still have a cat. It's a MagnaFlow cat. This has a carburetor from a Ford truck and an upgraded ignition system, so it's does not have a computer anymore. It's got all custom wiring, so this is a completely mechanical setup. It can run shy of 5 volts. It will shut off at 4.6 volts. Anything above that, it'll continue on running. So good for when your alternator goes out. It buys you a little bit more time to get home. There are no sensors at all, so there's no check engine lights. There's 0 sensors that can potentially leave you stranded. This is 100% mechanical carburetor. It has a choke, a 12-volt choke, and ignition control module and distributor. That's it. There's nothing else that's running this. And I have a HEI distributor that has the coil, the control module, and distributor all built into one, so I will put that in when I redo my electrical once again, because this was all just a rough draft as far as the electrical goes. I wired everything from scratch. Everything works much better than it did from the factory. It's a hot rod style wiring. For those of you that are interested, I'll show it at some point, but I'm not gonna be able to open the hood for my angle right now. So yeah, so this was my Jeep. Ladies and gentlemen, again, this was a 1989 Jeep Wrangler, and I hope you enjoyed the video and all the mods and everything I've done to it so far. You want to see it in action, check out some other videos that I posted with this thing. And yeah, it's been good to me. Everything below the frame has pretty much been rebuilt about a year ago. Everything's brand new. I have not rebuilt the motor. It is an original 4.2 liter with about 200,000 maybe, a little shy of that. But no plans in rebuilding that until it goes. And the transmission has a new torque converter. All the fluids have been meticulously maintained.